First, we tell you that these birth rates are low and declining due to a majority of the youth being unable to support a family due to a lack of financial incentives. For example, incentives like housing costs, which are rising day by day, alongside inflation, make it virtually impossible in order to raise a child in the current climate of the world. Coupled with the fact that there is instability in the majority of these countries, which we presume to be third world countries, because they are undergoing things like war, things like political turmoil, which essentially destroys their capability of actually wanting to take in other refugees if they themselves cannot support the nation entirely without having to rely on things like IMF to bail themselves out. Now, this coupled with the majority of these states refusing to actually give any incentive or actually giving them viable solutions on family planning alongside a lack of these countries actually look like. Firstly, we tell that these countries actually look like nations with the lack of infrastructural needs. Secondly, we tell that these countries lack welfare and useful healthcare. And lastly, these look like unstable countries in the Middle East or in Africa. What's the importance behind this? Firstly, if you were to couple the burden of immigrants or refugees onto these already struggling nations, we tell you that it would be the nail in the coffin, in the sense that it will burden already struggling systems of the country, like the education or healthcare system, to come to the brink of collapse. We tell you that it's going to look like these nations are forced to increase their taxes in order to cater to the needs of these immigrants, in order to, as stated by the Prime Minister earlier, in order to pretty much cover for the housing rent and costs like that, and alongside the fact that they have to increase taxes as a result and burden the local population much further. Now, moving straight on to arguments, the one and only argument I'll be presenting you in this debate is under the headline of how it will not increase the population or the birth rate in the first place. A few reasons to this. In order to get a better grasp and understanding of what it's actually like, we have to answer the question of what the interests of these immigrants are in the first place. We tell you that these immigrants are not even going to be interested in wanting to have children in the first place because, firstly, they are not familiar with the local environment in the sense that they are not adapted to the culture of the culture of the people. We tell you that the fact that you are not used to people speaking another language, not adapted to their cultures and traditions, is also the very moment where you're not going to suddenly want to marry people and have to have a child all around when you're also a refugee struggling to make income, especially when you don't have a solid, stable job yet. Secondly, these people usually come to Malaysia, especially what you said earlier, like the Bangladesh people, with the purpose of hustling. The very contradiction is that if you have a child, it's going to cost money. There's no way that these people are suddenly going to want to have children, even if their main purpose is wanting to bring back money for their people at home. Thirdly, the lack of social support. We tell you that this is as a result of these people not really having much support by the government. The fact that they're far from their friends and family is also one of the reasons why they are left all we need. Most is also going to be the nail in the coffin for the people, and it's going to lead to harassment. It's going to lead to internal instability, which can worsen the issue of birth rates much further than anticipated. We tell you that the moment that the population begins refusing to do anything like supporting these people is also the moment where it begins discrimination, where these immigrants will no longer feel safe to have children in the first place. Now, one to my arguments. What's the alternative here? The alternative is simple. Let's provide incentives for the poor and actually give them financial aid. So is something very controversial in the majority of countries. It's definitely going to lead to the fact that people are no longer, people are going to have mixed opinions and are going to think that it's a controversial act. Lastly, take note that we simply cannot support the negative refugees due to the fact of the economic instabilities. Lastly, these countries and these refugees, in the case that they do remarry, they will not be married as they are refugees, they are from war, they're not suddenly going to marry. And with that, I will speech. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Leader of Opposition. Now to continue the case for side OG, I would like to invite the Deputy Leader of the Deputy PM to continue the speech. Floor is yours. Here.
Hello, am I audible?